Well, I cleared a bunch of land with the tractor, taking out a bunch of brush, and then we brought in Navajo churro sheep to keep the weeds down and to eat it down and to fertilize. Um, and then we planted I'd say about 1,500 native nectar plants for them to feed on, because they come out here in the winter to feed on nectar plants to increase their body weight by about 10%. In the 1980s, there were 3 to 5 million monarchs in the state of California. Then they hit a precipitous decline due to pesticides, fires, habitat loss, climate change. So one year it went down to 300,000, and the next year or another year it went down to 20,000. And then in 2020, there was only 1,850 in the whole state. And people do count them. Then in 2021, there was a comeback to 250,000 in the state, but mostly in Central and Southern California. In 2022, there was a bigger bounce, even up to 350,000, and they returned then to Northern California as well. So the Monarch Sanctuary is providing them food so they can come out here during their overwintering months between October and February. So they need these native nectar plants to survive out here. And then we're also trying to restore an overwintering site, which was basically a place where they cluster in the trees. And they have to have that location has to have certain specifications, like be southern facing, be a stand of trees that are in a bowl shape to keep out the wind. So basically they like sun and they don't like wind. Well, it's a lot of work and time. So I have to spend a lot of my time, which is unpaid, maintaining, planting the plants, weeding, watering the plants, keeping out pests, and raising money. So basically money is the biggest issue. You got to raise money to do it and hire people, you know. Well, people have made donations and given money to the project. People have donated plants. So Spawn, which is the Salmon Protection and Watershed Network in the San Geronimo Valley, has given me a bunch of plants. We got a plant grant from an organization called Xerxes, the Xerxes Society for the Preservation of Invertebrates.
Nice.
People have volunteered their time. A lot of experts and organizations have come through here, and we've gotten local and national press. Well, we count them, right? Yeah. So a lot of times the media wants to come and they say, "Oh, we need to see monarchs. If we don't see monarchs, it's going to be a huge problem." And I'm like, "Well, the reason we're doing this is because there's no monarchs." So we started the project about a year and a half ago, and there were no monarchs in Northern California in 2021, really at all. And our plants weren't very mature in 2021. We just planted them.
Yeah.
So 2022, we started to see some of the fruits of our labor and saw this monarch corridor developing, where they would sort of fly from the pond to the food source to the overwintering site. So on a warm day under good conditions, we'd see a fair number of monarchs flying around. Our goal is to restore it to the point where they once again cluster in our eucalyptus grove. So what you do is it's basically like an estimate. So you look at like a branch, and if you see the clustering, you count what would be 100 or what would be 50.
Okay.
So what you do is you go to the front, and then you go to the side to see how deep it is, and then you go to the back to see what's happening on the back, right? And then you try and say, okay, you say that's 50 right there, and then you transpose that 50 or 100 around the tree or the branch, right? So you do an accurate as you can count of one little quadrant, and then you check it usually with at least one or two other people, and you guys all say what you think that number is, and then you kind of come to some agreement between the three of you of what that number is. Usually like the most experienced person would say that. So you say, okay, this section is 150 or 75, and then you transpose that around the rest of the tree. Yeah, so yesterday we got a whole bunch of sunflowers in, which will provide a fall nectar source for the butterflies and then propagate. They're very beautiful. So we just planted them along the side of our pond where it's out of the wind, where they really like it. So we're putting like a couple hundred of those, and a couple hundred of those will, in a year or two expand into 1,000 or something. Then we want to restore this overwintering site, which involves some tree management, cutting down some trees to create a bowl shape, and then letting in some sun and planting other native trees as we cut down these non-native eucalyptuses. Yeah. You guys could plant a nectar garden of your own at TAM or in your backyards, or you could you could help raise money for the Monarch Sanctuary. We have the donate button on the West Marin Monarchs.org website.